Welcome to today's episode on the Joe Maxwell Show. Today I've chosen to dial in on the topic raising boys in the 21st century, a topic that many have found themselves wondering why there is so much shift and perhaps imbalance to the view when compared to raising boys in previous generations. Today I'm joined by two amazing moms who are raising boys in the 21st century. Perhaps they can shed some light, if any, in the disparities that lies between raising boys in the 21st century versus raising boys in generations before. My first guest is Elaine Cunningham-Walker, a multi-award winning educational strategist. She's also the CEO of Everything's Education. And also with me is Ngozi Fasan, an investment banker who has a strong focus on creating outcomes that drives positive change and encourage diversity across board. Hello, ladies, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well. I'm really excited about today's topic. Thank you so much, ladies. Let's go right into today's topic on raising boys in the 21st century. Let's start with a very easy question. Boys used to be the best thing. Rewind to a generation or two when the arrival of a bouncing baby boy brought so much joy, to the family. A boy ensured that the family's name would endure forever. He would achieve great things in the world, become a prime minister or a president, or at least ensure the household has an extra source of income. Now, things have changed. Now that we see girls to be much more easier, and boys as being seen as, the troublesome one. What has changed, in your thoughts, in your mind? What do you think has changed? I'll pass that on to Ngozi.
When I think about raising boys, I think about obviously the geographical location. So I grew up in Nigeria, in Lagos. My brothers did as well. They went to boarding school there. The culture there is so different. I feel maybe, again, like you said, that's that generation where there's a lot of expectations, they're name carriers, they have the brighter future to a large degree. But here in the UK, from what I gather, it's more, the risk of joining gangs or dropping out of education or, drugs. I don't know if that's necessarily down to the neighborhood you live in or the exposure that your kids associated with once they're outside the nest. But for me, the fundamental shift is the location. Like for me, I'm doing this in London. My parents did this in Nigeria, mostly, and it was a completely different ball game. So what I feel I have to get in tune with is what are the challenges that we see in this society. And in this society, I think between worrying about stabbings, drugs, education not being a priority, or whether sport is where they want to go primarily and not focus on education. Those are the things that I think have shifted largely.
Thanks, Ngozi. What are your thoughts to that, Elaine? Why do you think boys are becoming more troublesome when compared to girls?
Yeah, I think a lot of emphasis has been placed on the girl achieving, and so it's taken the light off the boys so much, and maybe them acting out, it's a cry for them to say, well, what about us? Have you forgotten about us? Ngozi talks about raising her children in London, and one of the reasons why I decided to educate my children outside of London was being a single mother. I didn't want to have to deal with an extra layer of other things that I was dealing with. And I think that even if you raise them in the best environments ever, you've still got the nuances of London and the distractions of London. It's hard enough raising them as Black boys, and then I have this extra thing on there where I'm constantly like, where are you? What are you doing? Where are you? Who's your friend? And what might seem like a really good friend actually ends up to be like the worst thing ever. And so for me, I think that there has been a lot of emphasis placed on the girl child, like, STEM subjects, girls rule the world, they can do everything. And the boy has somehow been forgotten. But I think what has been good is that boys have been able to tap into their creative powers. So, for example, now I have a drama scholar, and the first time the boy came home, I was like, I want to be an actor. I was you're African, we don't do that, but I've had to encourage him, and I think that there is a new generation rising up in that it's slightly shifted, in that the boy no longer has to be this. He's a leader in his own right, but he's not the conventional leader that we knew before.
That's right. Thanks for sharing that. Not the conventional, because again, there is so much societal expectation on boys, on African boys, and I think we need to start thinking about how to shift and change that. Now, according to a report on Guardian UK, at a school, it's girls who are most likely to excel, boys who are likely to end up in corrective classes. And about, I think, 80% of the students normally within this sort of report, or I guess analysis, are male. And boys who are suspended or excluded of the 80% are 95%. That's a huge number. What are your thoughts around this report? Do you agree with that, or do you think that report doesn't show a true picture of the UK demographic when it comes to boys?
I don't think it shows a true picture, because some of these facts, I always say that statistics can be interpreted any way you want, and it depends on who's reading it. Okay, for me, there are 3 amazing women on this panel right now who there is no way that our children are going to end up that way just because of the values that we have in our home. So for me, that statistic does not apply to me. But there might be somebody down the road whose values are different from us, and anything goes, you know. So maybe that statistic does apply to them. So I think that, yes, I think that boys are acting out more because there are these barriers that are put on them, like boys don't cry, boy must man up, boy must do this, boy must do that. And so that's causing them to not be able to vocalize. If you look at it properly, girls are more vocal, they're more emotional with the way that they deal with things, where boys were like, well, I was always told that I should be like this, I should be like that. And I think that's part of the challenge. They're not allowed to be human beings. The role of a man has been set in stone, and the role of a girl has been set in stone. So girls, if a man wears pink, he seemed a bit weird. But I like a man in a nice pink shirt, you know. Looks lovely. But I think that's what's happening, is that we are putting so girls can't be scientists, that's the boys' role. Girls can't do physics, that's what boys do. But we need to move away from that, and that's how we're ending up with these kind of statistics. Those statistics are shocking, minus me, by the way, minus the 2 of you. But we need to encourage our boys to be whole boys and not what we just think they should be.
That's right. I like that. I like how you kind of nicely move the conversation to, emotionally imbalanced boys. Over to you, Ngozi, because that's really my next question. So on a recent thread, social media, and I've come across lots of these, in the news, and more importantly, we had an episode around all men should be feminists. And shockingly, some of the comments that we've had, many believe there's been a lack of focus on raising responsible and emotionally balanced boys versus men, which is resulting in an increase in angry men, emotionally imbalanced men, and more often we see narcissists. It's becoming more and more common amongst men, and this has nothing to do with the race now, whether or not you're white or black. We're seeing more men who are narcissists and just stuck up in their ways, and they have this idea that women are beneath them. Ngozi, what do you think, or why do you think there is an increase in emotionally unbalanced boys?
That is a very deep question. So if we're saying there's a large degree of boys out there that are emotionally imbalanced, I feel it's probably down to a lot of the upbringing, like what have they been exposed to as part of their developmental process?
You know what? I think that emotional intelligence, or being emotionally aware, actually makes you a stronger leader when you're able to tap into empathy. And I think empathy is something that's really important, that if you look at the generations before us in our culture, there's not that was basically zero. It was about be strong. But actually there's a lot of strength in being empathetic and showing an emotional side of yours, because you're able to manage human resource better. You're able to communicate better. And this thing with not crying, I cry all the time in front of my children. I'm just like, listen, mummy's having a bad day. And I think that when they are able to see that, they are able, it's normalized. And although a lot of men will go, oh, you need to man up. Well, being a man is to be able to show your emotions. That's what I feel personally. And being very honest about, and having the right, part of the problem why I think men do that is that they don't have the vocabulary for their feelings and their emotions. And by teaching our boys to do that, we actually raise, yes, it might seem as a weakness, but I don't think it is. I think that in that weakness, there is strength, because strength is being able to show that I'm being vulnerable right now. I'm struggling with this current situation, and it's okay to talk about that. We need to begin to normalize those kind of feelings, because up until now, it's wrong to do that. Where did we get the idealization from? I just do not know.
And that's a question.
To add to that, Ibi, just something you mentioned about the fact that you have a boy and girls, and with the girls it's okay, with the boy it isn't per se. Mm-hmm. In my experience, because I have 2 boys, there's no real comparison here. So my son cries. The only thing I know that I maybe unconsciously do is try and stop him from crying over everything.
And we all do.
Yes. And unfortunately, sometimes there's a reference to, why are you acting like a girl? Or don't be so girly. Or it's something I've had to learn to correct and curb in myself. But raising 2 boys, like I've said, of course, they are the same. They're human beings, first and foremost. So they will cry, they will act out, they will do things that naturally you will try to compare to the other sex. But it's, as a mom, trying to restrain myself and allow that flow through, so that, as we said, we don't raise the next generation of men who do not think it's acceptable to act out emotions, to speak, to act out anger, or actually communicate what is wrong. You don't want your child to just go man up and go to the room and be, sad at a young age. So I just wanted to highlight that point, because one sex family, like 2 boys, they're human beings. They will cry, they will shout, they'll do everything that a girl would do naturally.
That's right.
I wanted to add to that. I think it's important that, you have got a 2-parent family, and I'm a lone parent, but I also have, a really good support system. And I think it's important that this ideology that we are introducing to our children is something that is constant in the house. Because where you have, for example, my ex-husband will come and say, oh, man up. And I'm just like, that's not how I'm raising them. I'm raising them to be different, leaders. So, because that's what he was brought up with, boys don't cry, boys don't do anything. Where does that come from? I'd be really interested, like, where does that come from? Boys don't cry, but girls do. It's just, it doesn't make sense. Actually, boys should cry, because sometimes in crying you release and you get clarity. And I think maybe that goes back to the statistics that you read earlier, in that the reason why boys are acting up is a manifestation of a lack of clarity and a lack of direction. That's why they're ending up the way that they're ending up.
Thank you so much, guys. You are sharing nuggets. For those who are watching, if you are enjoying what we're talking about, and you have something to say, you have your thoughts and ideas, and perhaps maybe some advice on how we can ensure that we continue raising strong men, emotionally balanced boys, please leave a comment. And don't forget to send this to your friends and let them know, let them learn. And don't forget to subscribe as well whilst you are at it. Moving on to the next question, and I think this is for you, Ngozi. What are your thoughts as a mom raising boys? What are your responsibilities? What are you doing to ensure that you keep a balance? And I think you mentioned quite a few steps that you are taking. But I guess going forward from this conversation, because I'm sure we've talked about certain things that you never really thought about. What are you doing, or what would you be doing to ensure that you keep a balance, especially with so much emphasis placed on us raising strong boys? So
I think from a practical perspective, it's starting with the things that every child should have, which is values. One of the things that has led me or guided me as an adult is the values that I was raised with. It is things like kindness, empathy, integrity. Those three things, for example, are things that I try every day without necessarily making it obvious that to teach my sons. I think that one thing I observed as a young woman was, you date people, are they kind? Are they really good people? They might be nice guys, but those values, I feel some people just lack them. It seems really obvious, but things like empathy, I'll teach my son why he should share with his brother. I don't want to force him to share with his brother, but I want him to understand the fundamental reason why doing the right thing matters. So I try and set standards, high standards for my sons, which is between things like discipline, consistency. That's in terms of practical things to do. And then when it comes to values, I want them to understand that the fundamental things in life, between being kind, integrity, honesty, all of those things are things they have to learn from me so that they go out into the world being the kind of man that I would expect, to describe as a good man, basically.
That was really loaded, really, really loaded. Elaine, I've got a question for you, an experienced strategist working with young boys and girls, assisting them to gain places at top schools in the UK and abroad. From an emotionally balanced standpoint, how would you say the strengths of the boys you have come across are when compared with the female counterparts? And this is not to kind of put anything on blast, but we're just saying because most of the children that you work with are sort of like pre-teenage, right? This start from pre-teenage, and that's where you really start seeing the characteristics really show.
I mean, I do work with sort of like students coming into sixth form, but I think across the board, what I find is that girls, they feel like they have nothing holding them back. And they're just there and they just talk and talk and talk. And sometimes you're like, oh my goodness, we've got a talker here. But I find that with boys, when there's a lack of self-esteem, like the disparities are huge. With a girl, you can work quite quickly with her, but I think that's a cultural thing. And that's why there's a lack of critical thinking in our communities, because children are always taught how to think and there's no innovation. This is how you do it, get it done this way. Whereas if we gave them a little bit of space to kind of fail in a safe space. And if you think about it, our community, you can't fail. What failure are you? Like, you can't even get 8 out of 10. Like, that's a failure, And so we have to, I think that looking at girls and boys, girls are easier to work with in terms of strategy, in terms of this is where you need to get to, this is what you need to do, and then just get on with it. Where boys are kind of like, well, are you sure? Or sometimes they're slightly lazy. If I'm going to be really honest, being a mother of boys, sometimes they are slightly lazy and you're thinking, do you want to get here or you don't want to get here? But I think what I have noticed is more of a rise of entrepreneurial flair in boys in particular. So there is this mindset shift going on in the children that, you know what, I don't know if that's going to really work for me, so I'm going to try and do this on my own, or I'm going to have it, and I hate the word side hustle because I don't believe it's ever a side hustle. Like, if you're going to make money from it properly. But girls are more stepping into corporate roles, because if you think about it, years ago girls were told that they shouldn't step into those roles, so they're now stepping into the roles that the men were occupying. There's been a reversal. Men were occupying and men are like, well, I'm going to come out of that. So looking at children that I'm working with moving forward in terms of where they're going, there are some parents who are like, well, this is the school that I want my child to go to, but they're more like, well, I want to go to a different route. That's what I'm seeing more of for boys than I am seeing of girls. Girls are all like, girls, I want to be an astronaut, where boys are like, well, actually, I want to take care of my family, or I want to cook, or I want to bake. Can you imagine our community those years, and the boy wants to cook?
He wants to be a chef? You want to be a boxer? You want to...
Okay, like, no. But you're actually in those spaces now. I've got a younger son. He cooks all the time. I'm not saying his food is amazing. I don't tend to eat it. However, I've given him the space. He goes online. Yesterday I came downstairs and he'd done this amazing sausage and potato. And I said to him, wow, you're really growing. Who taught you how to cut potatoes like this? He said, I looked at it up on YouTube. So he's confident in doing that. He needs to cook. At least if I didn't do anything right, when he marries, at least he can cook. And his wife doesn't have to worry.
Thank you so much. So whilst we are rounding up, I'll just pass over to you, Ngozi. And I need you guys to be very honest. You both have 2 boys each. Is there a part of you that still desires to have girls? Let's be honest now, guys.
The quick answer is no.
Wow.
For a number of reasons. You know, a lady is not supposed to disclose her age, but when I think about how old I am and the pounds I'm trying to shift now and the possibilities of having a child and going through the whole cycle of pregnancy, you know, sleepless nights, I've ruled that out absolutely, completely.
Fair enough.
The only thing I don't rule out is adoption. So
yeah, or surrogacy. I did have that conversation with my mum the other day. Because my younger son said, "You're too old," and I'm like, okay, that's not really cool, but okay. But no, secretly, I do desire a girl because I just see how much of an asset I am to my mum, and I want that for myself. But you know, I just have to pray for really good daughter-in-laws now.
Now. You can start a prayer right about now, girl. It's not too early.
Right, but because my boys are teenagers now, and I read somewhere that, you know, when they get to a certain age, they find you very embarrassing, and you're not the cool mom anymore, and they move away. But a friend of mine said they do come back when they're around about 18, 19, they come back. And then you are a different type of woman in their life. You know, right now I'm just annoying, and why am I stalking you on social media?
Wow, I hear you loud and clear, and I definitely validate that, because I remember my younger brother, I think up until between age 12 and 18, everybody was alien to him. He couldn't even next to my mom in public. He was just like, but now he's like, yo, that's my mom, you know, that's my mom, that's my sister, that's my this, and it's just amazing how he's just literally switched. I mean, he's a grown man now, a family man now, but I remember those days still haunt me.
You've given me hope. You've given me hope, honestly.
Oh, and so have you given me hope as well, because to Elaine's point, I think about my relationship with my mom, and I think maybe in 10 years, I'll be thinking, who do I have that with? And it's scary, but it's the reality that I have to live with. So
you just have to pray for that daughter-in-law that's going to be the same almost.
Do you know, I don't know. I mean, I have one boy, and you guys have 2. But there's a part of me, and you know, before going into today's conversation, there's a part of me that just feels, God, whoever marries my son, Lord, I just need her to just, you know, come correct, because I'm just thinking, damn, I'm going to be scrutinizing the girl, like, hello.
Let me tell you, my son has a girlfriend, and I'm just like, okay, see the blood. You know,
surely there are people watching this episode. It could be now, it could be 10 years from now watching this. What will be your one advice that you will give to parents or even people watching raising boys? And, you know, I guess at this point we can actually extend it to children. You know, I talked about genderless environment. What will be that one advice that you'd give to somebody who is listening or who's watching this episode right now that can hopefully help to change the trajectory of how they raise their boys or how they raise their children, or perhaps how they can start seeing things differently, because it could be a father watching rather than a child? Okay,
my one piece of advice would really be to encourage your children's passions and allow them to explore, you know, any areas where they feel they'll be great. You know, don't try and cut short those expectations. And the other thing I didn't mention when I was talking about some of the practical things that I'm doing in my house, which I then realized was, because I have boys and I still have a normal home to run, I have to teach my sons to be independent. My 10-year-old can make himself his breakfast. He can make himself a lunch at a push, even if it's just noodles. He can fold clothes. The other day he was ironing. He will strip his bed. Practical things. I do not want to be that mother who coddles a child to the point where, you know, they're not capable of doing the things they should be doing at the right age. So I would say advice is encourage their passions, encourage greatness, and teach them practical skills to be successful. I agree that when there are things like exams or 11 plus or whatever, I will step up and take away some of the chores. But it's important for these kids to learn as maybe girls did. Like if you have a home with boys and girls, it's easy to delegate to the girls, oh, come and learn how to do this. But the boy sits down and watches TV. That doesn't work in my household.
I love that. Encourage passion, greatness, and allow them to explore within their environment. That is so powerful. Elaine, rounding up with you.
I totally agree with what Ngozi said. I think it's really important to teach these soft skills. And sometimes they say the soft skills are the hardest skills to learn, because you could be amazing, first class degree holder, PhD holder, and you can't boil an egg. That's, who are we setting you up for? Yes, we're setting you up for this role, but you don't know how to be practical. And I think that it's really important to raise practical boys, who can apply what they're learning in the home, because ultimately we're raising children to become adults. They're going to have their own home. They're going to have their own children. And as much as we can sit here and be, glamorous as we want, we're going to be grandmothers, And so we want to make sure that the values that we grew up with are the same values that they take into their homes, but with a slight difference, because obviously there are some things, I think, this is a different generation. The fact that, like you rightly said, we're more open. This generation is more open. There are certain things that we would talk about that our mothers will say, no, you can't talk about that. But like, keep it in the home. But our children are so open, they share it with their friends. It will be on social media. That's how I know I'm able to look on social media and find out where my youngest one head is at, because he's quite vocal on social media. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It means that I'm still able to understand what's going on in his head. Even if he doesn't communicate it to me, he's communicating it to somebody. I think that the strength of the children, or the boys, girls that we're raising right now, is all about the input that we put in them. It might not all be all academic, but I feel that education isn't all academic. It's about the values that we instill in our children. It's about learning practical things, and it's also about becoming a good person and having those qualities that I think Ngozi spoke about earlier. Are you a good person? Do you practice forgiveness? Do you do this? That's more, for me, I think that's a higher necessity than having all the straight A's and all the other bits and pieces. I think it works hand in hand. I think that's my take home for today.
Thank you so much, ladies. This is a very loaded conversation, and I am so excited to share this with everybody. Everything the nuggets you shared, and I think the way we've kind of rounded up this conversation has been really, really powerful. So thank you so much, guys, for coming on the show today. Thank you so much for watching. What are your thoughts around today's topic? Do you believe there are disparities in how boys are raised in the 21st century versus how boys were raised in previous generations? Do you believe a lot of the challenges faced by men is as a result of parenting or societal expectation? Leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe, share with your friends and family, and don't forget to switch on the notification button so you never miss a thing. And that's it for us in today's episode. Until next time again, I am your host, Jo Maxwell.